Meeting will be called to order. The notice is hereby given. The above call meeting of the governing body of the city of Balcones Heights, Texas will be held on Thursday, March 27, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the Justice Center located at 3300 Hillcrest Drive, Balcones Heights, Texas 78201 to consider and act upon any lawful subject which may come before said meeting, including among others the following items to be discussed and acted upon. In the call to order, recording of a quorum, we do have a quorum. Noted, and invocation and pledges of allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flags. Who wants to do the invocation? Okay. Amen. Flag, United States of America. Indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilman Solers. So we will now, this time, do we have any citizens? Nope.
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay, so note to the record, we have no citizens for public comment period. I think I still need to read it, but I'll just do it as a matter of record. At this time, citizens who filled out a registration form prior to the start of the meeting may speak on any topic they wish to bring to the attention of the governing body, so long as the topic is not on the agenda for this meeting. During the citizens to be heard section, no council action may take place. No council discussion or response is required to the speaker. Citizens who wish to speak on a specific agenda item, when that item is called for discussion, must first fill out a registration form prior to the start of the meeting indicating which agenda item they wish to address. For the record, there is no citizens that want to have a public comment period. So we now will move on to the business items of the agenda. Number one, consider an action to adopt a resolution authorizing submission of an application for funding for the year of 2025 allocation of Bexar County CDBG home and ESG programs and directing City Administrator Andy Joslin or his designees to sign this application and act on the governing body's behalf in all matters pertaining to this application. Mr. Joslin?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I asked for this special meeting because we didn't meet the deadline for our regular council meeting. This application is due the 31st of this month. So we did start the preliminary filling out of the application, and then it asked for a resolution. This is an economic development initiative, the corporation initiative. We spoke with Mr. Clay Benford, and as you know, the Economic Development Corporation was formed for the purpose of handling the WODA project, but we want to expand that to the entire community. So we know that we do not collect sales tax for that corporation. The monies that go to them, I've talked to Floyd, there is a small line item for economic development. We spoke about that because of the approval that I got, if we need to utilize any of that for consultants as we move forward for economic development. But we're looking at the big picture and how much funding is going to be required for them to be successful. I've got the EDC chair in the audience. I've asked him to be here with me to assist me as we move forward. But we'll speak about the resolution that's attached. It was attached in your packet. A resolution authorizing the submission of an application for funding from the PY fiscal year 2025 allocation of Bexar County CDBG, home and ESG programs. Whereas a governing body of the city of Balcones Heights is an urban county or in a participating city in Bexar County's CDBG, home and ESG program eligible areas, be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Balcones Heights as follows. The mayor and the city council has reviewed and hereby approves an application set up to $650,000 for the following activities. List of all activities. Applicants request by priority include funding breakdown, Balcones Heights Job Creation Loan Fund, BHGCLF, $650,000. The mayor and the city council hereby approves the use of local funding sources listed below in the amount of zero to be used as cash match for the activities listed in the grant application. General funds cash match zero. The governing body hereby authorizes and directs Andy Johnson, city administrator, or his designee to sign this application and act on the governing body's behalf in all matters pertaining to this application. In addition, in your packet was the actual application for this grant. We had a difficult time printing it out and sending it so that you could be able to read it, because this is an actual program that you go in and you type all this information. So I did print out a copy for you to review. In addition, if you had any other questions, it's got project description, which is some of the basic information that we've got already as far as who we are, what our city demographics are as we move forward through the pages, project timeline and agency capacity. And as at the top, you can see the phases of the application that you go through: introduction, project context, project description, project timeline and agency capacity, budget and financial capacity, performance measures and outcomes and past performance, CDBG applicants only, and required documents. We have in the emailed application the additional documents that they were requesting. They were requesting a map of the area. They were requesting some other legal documents that ensure that we are able to apply for these grants. So list of service providers and briefly describe the collaboration, budget and financial capacity, performance measures and outcomes, and the basic other things that we've got in there. The EDC chair, I'll ask him to speak about the Economic Development Corporation's desires to do more than they have been doing, and reaching out and trying to find funding for that without having to do anything at this time. We've looked at sales tax and the allocations that we have. And currently, there is no room for us to designate a certain portion of sales tax for the corporation to conduct these projects. So, Dr. Enriquez, could you just give a quick brief of what you'd like?
Yes, go right ahead.
So the rationale behind sort of being aggressive with going for opportunities for extramural funding, in other words, no city money involved, is you know, the thing with about let's say economic development is that if you approach it from the standpoint of you know, the big project like the WODA, there's very little opportunity to do very much there. But these small and micro enterprises are really the lifeblood of a community, and I think to a certain extent, the oxygen's getting sucked out of the room for those folks because of everything that's kind of going on with this other project. So just the thinking behind it, or the rationale behind it, is to create an opportunity for the very viable corridor that you have, and to help them grow sales tax, help low to moderate income folks get jobs, and just really overall boost up the economic ladder. So that hence the you know, working with Mr. Jocelyn to try to get this done. And again, I'm very grateful that you convened. I didn't think you would, actually. I thought, well, we kind of missed the boat a little bit, but he said it was possible to do a special meeting. And so we said, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If the council is willing to meet and either you give us the thumbs up or thumbs down, we'd be certainly, you know, happy to put it together and then submit it with your approval, of course. So that was just kind of the thinking with all that.
One of the partnerships that we've had, I'm sorry, Dr. Enriquez, Mayor. One of the partnerships that we've had, of course, is I am the city administrator, but I'm also the Economic Development Executive Director that works close with the EDC board. We collaborated on this and trying to move the any project forward that the city council has asked of us. And economic development, I know, is a priority for us, and we're trying to do it in a financially prudent way. So this is some of the things that we're looking at. It takes a little bit to fill out these applications, as you know. I know some of you have done grant work or applied for grants, and these are some of the things that we've got. Some of it's data that you have already had in prior grant applications. This one being a new project that we're trying to move forward, there is some things in there that we've added of how we want to move this project forward. So I think at this point, we'll try to answer any questions that you've got. But all you're approving at this time is for a resolution for us to move forward. We talked, Dr. Enriquez and I, and said, well, we'll just take it to the EDC board because it's an EDC initiative, but it's a resolution that needs to be passed and only the city council can do. That's why
We have any questions from any council members who'd like to be recognized? Councilman Burton, go right ahead.
So just by doing this resolution, it's basically putting our fishing line in the water. Doesn't mean we're getting this at all. I mean, we could get it, we could not get it. That's basically, we're just putting our line in the water to fish to see if we get a nibble.
That is correct. One of the things that we've done is we as a city, and I speak the council and the city administration, we've got a very good working relationship with Bexar County Economic Development. This is where this goes up to that point. I know they have funding, but they have to spread that quite a bit, in the area. So we're hoping that we can move forward. The state of the national economy is another question that we have. Our money's going to be coming down for these projects, but if we don't apply, we'll never know. But it is just for us to apply for the grant and see where it takes us.
Okay, and then say a business applies and they get whatever amount they request. What happens if they default? Are we on the hook at all?
No, it's all going to be part of this grant portion. So the monies are going to be what's going to be allocated. If we receive the grant, then these will be set aside. So they'll apply for that. And hopefully that'll be taken care of that way.
And the last one I've kind of written down here, theoretically, could Sid Weiss apply for this and get monies even though he hasn't paid us 1 cent in our WOTA deal?
Theoretically, we can't exclude anybody. So I can't tell you, no, he's not going to get, if he applies. But our focus here are small businesses. And that's a primary look that we're looking.
Okay, I'll let the other ones kind of speak and I'll come up maybe with some other questions, but those were my main ones for right now.
Any other council members? Councilmember Macias?
You briefly mentioned about the disbursement. How does that happen? If we are successful and get the grant, money comes in, how does the disbursement work?
Dr. Enriquez.
Yeah, so a couple of things actually to Councilman Burton's question is you actually contemplate some folks defaulting like that. So that's built into the budget as well. Not that we want folks to default, but a revolving loan fund works on the premise that some of these folks may not pay it back. And so the idea behind that is that's why you charge interest on other folks to ultimately be able to, replenish the fund, hence a revolving loan fund. We partner. One of the things that we would do is partner with a bank, or in this case, a credit union. I have some familiarity with this a little bit, and so they would, as part of that, of the criteria of the loan, is creditworthiness, but not, an outrageous, a reasonable creditworthiness. And so they act as sort of consultants as well on the grant, and they assist, and they're happy to in most cases. because many of them, it's part of their mission. Some of these institutions are CDFIs, community development financial institutions, and they want to loan money. And so they want to build relationships with folks. So it helps them as well. And then as to the disbursements, they just kind of follow along the same lines as any loan. So working with the city, they would, have a schedule very similar to any type of loan. If they're going to borrow it, let's say, for example, for equipment, all the requirements of any kind of business loan, where you're getting it, how much are you paying for it? We might even register UCC to have a lien on the equipment if it meets a certain criteria and all that kind of stuff. So it follows, it's just a traditional loan, except the difference here is the objective. The objective is to hire folks. They have to, there's an additional criteria, and that criteria is giving opportunities to low and moderate income folks.
I'll pass and come back later.
Any other council member? have any-
I have a few.
Councilman Sines?
Yeah, so if we are approved for this grant, $650,000, where would that funding be held?
That would be, we've got a list of banks that we've got there that we would work with in regards to.
So the money would be held completely separate from city finances.
Completely separate.
Okay.
That's specifically for this initiative here. And that's the way we would handle that. It would be another process of working with the council, working with the EDC to designate a bank for this specifically. And like Dr. Enriquez says, this is where we look at, how, hey, this is the money that we have. We want to help these people factor into the default that would be covered in there. So it would keep the city whole without it. This is up on the.
So that $650,000, once we loan it out, we're receiving interest payments on it by the recipients of the loans from the businesses that apply and receive it. Where does that interest go? Does that go directly back into that account and remain separate, or is that something that's going to fund the EDC?
Well, I think that specifically for this grant, if I'm mistaken, it all has to be utilized for that specific. And it's got the budget breakdown on there where it'll tell us, administration fees.
Yeah, I read that, but I just want to make sure like the interest payments.
Yes, sir. The actual loan amount is listed on there that we would be able to loan out.
Up to 450,000 is what actually you loan out, and the overhead would be the other 200.
So that overhead, that $100,000 in administrative expenses, what is that going to? Is that a staff position, or is that fees that the bank's going to charge us to administer the loan?
So typically what would happen is there's some other partners in the grant as well, like the UTSA Small Business Development Center, who, as part of the criteria of, again, because the idea behind it is that these folks would they become bankable, and part of that would help them. So they also receive some consultancy from for example, the Small Business Development Center. I think there's a little bit in the budget for that. There's also some staff from the city that would, the grant would buy their time, a portion of their time as well. So for example, in the marketing aspects of it, like to get the word out, like, because folks don't know about it. So there would be some time for staff that's allocated there to sort of look at, like, okay, well, what are the businesses along the corridor, right? And looking up certificates of occupancy and the owners and all that. And then, doing the outreach, and probably, anybody who's interested could come here and learn about it. We'd have an event here or something like that, or out in the community, or at the mall or wherever, right? And so all of those things is being paid for through the grant, right? So the city's not pledging, and actually, I mean, in theory, you could cost share some of that, but we're not even asking for cost share. We're saying, no, the grant's got to pay for all these people's time, basically.
I just want to ensure that we're not looking at new city staff for this, where this grant will actually help offset some city expenses for staffing that would be engaged in this project.
Yeah, pay as you go, basically. I mean, they would have to, you know, if you're going to use her, let's say someone's effort, we calculate what that effort is, and that's part of the deal.
Yeah, so figure out 10% of their time is dedicated to this fund. So
Correct.
10% of that will, 10% of.
Look at that salary and fringes.
Next question I have is, it says between 45 and 75 clients will be served with, I think, a minimum of 51% being LMI. How do we determine that they are in fact LMI and that they
Correct.
are from Balcones Heights? 'Cause
Well,
that's the point of this, right?
yeah, well, two things. The businesses have to be in Balcones Heights. The residents can come from surrounding areas, but you also have folks, you know, the idea there is that so the footprint, the people that the businesses that receive the loan should be here, but they don't necessarily, the LMI folks don't necessarily need to be from Balcones Heights.
Because here it's talking about our population, you know, that we're 42.5% below the poverty line. So if we can't ensure that citizens are benefiting from this, you know, that's.
Well, your businesses are,
For the overall area.
right, right.
You know, it could help our businesses. I do want to know, how do we determine the cost per client of 7,500 to 14,000, you know?
Just simply divide the number of folks served by the overall request of the grant.
If we get 100 people over 450 for that.
Yeah, it's an estimate. They want to know basically, okay, what is this really costing on a per capita basis? And so that's an estimate. You take the overall request and you divide it by the number of folks served. If you divided it by 45, it would be the low number. If you divide it by 75, it would be the high number, or vice versa, actually.
Are we capping that at all?
Mm-mm.
We get a couple hundred, or I don't know how many businesses are in.
No,
here, but-
well, okay, so,
Right, so if they hire 3 or 4 people. we can
right.
get 3 or 4 disbursements for this.
Yeah, so there's two, let me see, there should be 2 funds here. So the loans are 15 to 30, but the LMI individuals who get, because it's a job creation fund, that's the 45 to 75. So it's only about 15 to 30 loans, but it's 45 to 75 folks that get hired as a result of those loans.
I do want to make sure that we're looking for net growth, because it says 45 to 75, like hired or retained. And I don't like retained as a metric, because you can say, well, I was going to fire 3 people, but I didn't. So y'all give me $30,000. So I just want to make sure that we have a way to confirm that they are actually net growth in jobs, and they're not just getting a government handout so they can keep their doors open or something like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, we could change the language, but, for example, if someone says, well, we're laying these folks off, you know, unless we do that, that's typically where you see the retained language. Like, it's either a reduction in force, but because they're not going to do the reduction in force, in fact, they're actually retained. That's kind of what that's clued into. But absolutely, I mean, HUD has really exacting standards on this, and CDBG is the one that, yeah. It's the federal, whatever the federal criteria is around that, absolutely is what we'll adhere to, because we have to.
Very good. Last thing I have on here is, one of my questions or concerns is the list of service providers. We have a lot of very strong groups here. The one that I have concern about is the Balcones Heights Business Alliance.
Mhm.
So who runs that, and how will they participate in this? Who's on
So
their board, et cetera?
If there is another, that's the only one that I heard of, is if there's a Balcones Heights Business Association, or is there anything out there that is Balcones Heights specific? Because I mean, that's one of the things I asked Andy, and Andy's new here as well, and he's like, if there is a trade group, you know, that sort of, we thought about the mall, we thought about that, but we didn't want it to be identified with any particular, and there is it's my understanding that there is this alliance group.
My concern is that, so we have longstanding and reputable businesses and groups like Wells Fargo Generations, the CFDIs like Lift Fund in River City, the UTSA Small Business Development Center. That's, you know, got a strong track record of success, a good reputation in the area. San Antonio Workforce Solutions. So all these are organizations that have proven track records. So Balcones Heights Business Alliance, I don't know really anything about them. What are their results? What kind of expertise do they provide here?
What would go there typically is a business associate, a chamber of commerce, or but I couldn't find anything online like that. So we said, well, plug something in. We have to, what is the entity in Balcones Heights where small businesses and micro businesses sort of congregate? And so we didn't have anything for that. So we understood that it is this Balcones Alliance or Business Alliance. And so we said, well, that's the closest thing we got. It could very easily just simply be the EDC. I mean, but I mean, it could, I mean, but it has to be, the notion there is that we were trying to demonstrate a connection or a nexus to the business community
I think I'd be,
in specifically Balcones Heights.
I think I'd be more comfortable with the EDC with their expertise.
No problems.
Because again, I don't know
Yeah.
who all is involved in the Business Alliance, what their board is, what their structure is, or anything like, what their expertise is.
And as we move forward, that'll be something that we look at. Like Dr. Enriquez said, we're trying to find a local conduit. So it's no problem for us to change it to the EDC.
Yeah.
What would typically go there is like the Balcones Heights Chamber of Commerce, if there was such a thing,
Don't have one.
right? But there apparently is not. So
Thank you. That's what I have for now. If
Hmm?
it sparks up, I'll.
So there is a
on that-
Balcones Heights Chamber of Commerce.
Oh.
I established one. And it's dormant. It hasn't been activated again. It fell out of.
well, it was a Google search, Mayor, and it didn't come up. So
So, there was one, and just for the record, I just want to point out that there are some impact measurements and sustainability plans. And if you look at section phase 4 of the project timeline at agency capacity, the final phase focuses on evaluating program impact and ensuring long-term sustainability, compliance monitoring, and HUD reporting track job creation metrics, and business growth. The program also explores additional funding opportunities and develops a strategy to transition the loan fund into a self-sustaining revolving loan program. A community showcase highlights success stories demonstrating the program effectiveness in stimulating local development. So they have considered those things that were
yeah.
concerns, and they're addressing them in this particular section. So I think it's going to relieve a lot of the misunderstandings of what the use of the loan will be for. And it's pretty transparent in that section. But anyone else have any more comments?
I do. I know we've mentioned going different areas and equipment, and reading the document, I think it specifies medical, retail, and hospitality. Is that the only areas that we're bound?
It's targeting those areas because most of the jobs here are in those fields. But it could be other fields, but we're targeting those particular fields.
So in going back to what Mr. Sines was saying, Councilman Sines was saying, do we remove the Balcones Business Alliance? And I'm just as uncomfortable as he is, because that I know there's no data. There's no, that I know of, there's nothing.
It was a fill-in again for, again, the idea is that part of the grant is to, if you notice, one's for bank or credit union, right? A small business sort of development group, and then all that. But typically you would, again, this is where you would plug in a chamber of commerce or, you know, something like that there. We couldn't find one. We heard of this Alliance folks. We said, well, plug that in. But absolutely, it could just as easily be the EDC, the Balcones Heights Economic Development Corporation.
Right. And I think I'd be much more comfortable
Majority
with,
of the
with that. And that, those are my comments and. that's-
No problem. Yeah, I know that.
So whatever the council feels comfortable. Mr. Burton, you yield the floor, Councilman?
Yes,
Sam?
right now, yes.
Councilman
At,
Burton.
at the risk of sounding naive, what is the UCC?
The Uniform Commercial Code, sometimes when, you know, they put liens on equipment and stuff like that. But again, we would follow if it doesn't need to be there, if you make a purchase or something of a piece of equipment, sometimes they'll file what's called a UCC lien on that particular thing, and they record it so that way they don't try to sell it. You know, and if someone does a search and says, hey, you don't own that, you still owe on that Bobcat or that pizza maker machine or whatever.
No, so
That's good. Good question. Mayor.
Yes,
Yes.
Councilman Valverde.
Well, one of the questions is already answered, but on this budget and financial capacity, this $650,000 grant requested for the project, is that a specific project or any project?
No, it's this project. This
This
is,
project.
this is the only application that I'm aware of that is being submitted at this during this funding cycle to the county. So it would be this, it's this.
Okay, so this project, okay.
Yes, that's correct.
And as far as the Balcones Heights Business Alliance, I've been in and out of council for 12 years and I've never heard of it until just recently. So I can understand y'all's concern. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Valverde. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so let's go ahead and call a vote for this. Authorizing and with the concerns that you have about the Business Alliance be resolved in however manner that the council wishes. It's truly fine with both sides, so whatever direction you want to go.
May I be recognized?
Yes, sir, you can, Councilman Sines.
I move to make a motion to approve the resolution to authorize a city administrator to apply for this grant for the purpose of the Balcones Heights Job Creation Loan Fund, with the stipulation that they change the text to reflect the Balcones Heights Economic Development Corporation instead of the Balcones Heights Business Alliance.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
A second.
Okay, Councilman Valverde has second. Let's go ahead and call for the vote. Councilman Burton,
yeah,
Councilman Sellers,
Nay.
Councilman Lysia,
Yeah,
Councilman Sines,
Yay.
Councilman Valverde.
Yay.
Okay, we have a 4-1 vote with 1 nay from Councilman Sellers. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we've resolved and concluded our business. Do we have any other statements or any other input?
Myself and Dr. Enriquez, as far as the Economic Development Corporation, thank you for approving this so that we may move.
Great. Thank you, council, for making your presence here and being here at the special meeting to take care of this. Appreciate your time. So the time is,
make a motion to adjourn.
no, the time is 6:34 and we're going to have a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, item number 2, need to
Do
read
we
it.
have an item number 2? I didn't even see that.
Yes, sir.
Agenda items requested by mayor and council members to be placed on future council agenda. So anybody have any future things they want to put on? Okay, so let's have a motion for adjournment. Okay, Councilman Sellers, council has moved. Oh, you do have something? Okay, sir.
Mr.
ahead.
Sellers, your microphone.
On the next meeting, I would like an update on the code compliance. I heard that he is out of the hospital. I don't know, but I just want an update.
Okay, sir.
Yes, sir, no problem.
Note taken by our city administrator. Now, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Sines has made a motion to adjourn. The time is going to be 6:35 PM.
I'll
We
second.
have a second. Okay, and then let's go ahead and take a vote. Mr. Valverde?
Hey.
Mr. Sines?
Yay.
Mr. Lisea?
Yay.
Mr. Sellers?
Hey.
Mr. Burden?
Yay.
Okay, again, the time is 6:35 PM. We have adjourned now for the meeting.